Little noted story. Was reported on Friday and basically dropped. You folks, we all are worried about nuclear weapons. We talk about the possible use of nuclear weapons against us. And the Biden administration is about to hand nuclear weapons to the Islamonazi regime in Iran. And I'm not kidding. In fact, there was a superb report on Fox, as I said on Friday. And you need to listen to this, because this issue, other than me and now Fox, nobody's discussing this. And one day you're going to wake up and say, how the hell did this happen? They're too busy character assassinating Casey DeSantis, and I'll get back to that. I notice most of the women who are attacking Casey DeSantis are as ugly as Bella Abzug ever was, Mr. Producer. They're slobs. They're pigs. Most of the men, they're slobs and pigs too. They're jealous. They don't say a word about Dr. Jill. They don't talk about how Dr. Jill and Joe Biden hooked up, even though there's a lot of controversy around that. Isn't there? Press. Not a word. No. They defend Hunter Biden. Just look at their priorities. And by the way, the only Karen out there is Whoopi Goldberg. Her real name is Karen. She's the Karen. Casey DeSantis is a professional woman. She's a mother. She's a cancer survivor. She's a wife. Brilliant, beautiful, everything, virtually every woman in the media is not. With a few exceptions here and there, of course. But not enough. You go to MSNBC, it's all ugly all the time. You go to CNN, it's all uglier all the time. It's the truth. I think that's on their resume. Anyway, I want you to listen to this. Very important. About Iran. Go.
Well, right now we're awaiting an update from the Pentagon as new evidence emerges out of Iran of the regime's nuclear weapons development. These new satellite images you're looking appear to show what experts say is an underground nuclear facility that's actually so deep beneath the Earth's surface underground it may be totally impenetrable by U.S. weapon systems. Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin joins us from the Pentagon with new developments. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Jillian. Well, new evidence shows worrisome progress at this nuclear facility so deep in the earth that it's likely beyond the range of conventional U.S. weapons, as you mentioned. The new site is in the Zagros Mountains in central Iran, not far from Iran's current uranium enrichment facility at Natanz. These new satellite photos and videos from Planet Labs over central Iran show what experts say is new construction that started in late 2020, shortly after a fire blamed on sabotage destroyed part of the old Natanz facility. 4 entrances have been dug into the mountainside, 2 to the east and another 2 to the west. Each is 20 feet wide and 26 feet tall. Today, Israel's Defense Force chief issued a veiled warning.
We are also closely examining the other ways to nuclear capability. Without going into details, there are possible negative developments on the horizon that could prompt action. We have abilities, and others have abilities.
Iran is believed to be as close as it has ever been to developing a nuclear weapon. Experts estimate that the new underground mountain facility is between 80 and 100 yards below ground, which is the maximum range of any current conventional weapons.
Currently, they've been constructing an underground facility over the past 2 years or so, 2, maybe 3 years. And this facility is much deeper than other underground facilities that we know of, including Fordo and Parchin.
For now, it's unclear what's in these tunnels at this mountain site. If Iran was to introduce uranium into the site, it would have to inform the IAEA. But the IAEA hasn't responded to any questions about the site so far. Experts fear that the site is going to be big enough to allow Iran to potentially enrich uranium at it, and uranium is what fuels a nuclear weapon.
Since President Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal 5 years ago, Iran has said it is enriching uranium up to 60%.
Okay, let's stop there. That's the one shot, kind of a cheap shot, that troubles me. Don't leave the spot there, Mr. Producer. Donald Trump had that country, that is the Islamonazi regime, hanging by a thread. By a thread. He put these bone-crushing economic sanctions on Iran, and he enforced them. They had nowhere to sell their oil. They couldn't get basic materials and so forth into the country. We had blocked them. We had blocked them through NATO countries, the European Union, that is, other countries. Even China and Russia dare not cross us. And it was working. And the people in Iran, who want nothing to do, the vast majority of them, with this throwback regime, they rose up. Thousands of them were murdered, raped, tortured after a young teenage girl was murdered by security forces while she was in their clutches. And then comes in Biden. He turns his back on the violations of the sanctions. Then he lifts the sanctions for the vast majority of the sanctions. Then he sends in an America-hating Obama moron as the negotiator, this guy, Malley, who's trying to cut deals left and right, shows every weakness imaginable to the Islamonazi regime. They even bring in Putin and the Russians to help negotiate for us. And while they're playing rope-a-dope with Biden and his cronies, that moron Blinken over there at the State Department, God, is he awful. And that bizarre-looking National Security Council chief, Sherman. The Iranians are pressing ahead. So Trump had them on the run. He had them boxed in. Here's the thing. Michael Duran is a brilliant, brilliant man who writes about these things. And he wrote a piece not too long ago, and he pointed out the Obama deal did something no prior administration ever accepted. The Obama deal with Iran was premised on the basis that Iran would get a nuclear weapon, that the Middle East would be nuclearized, that there wasn't a damn thing we could do about it, that we should treat this as some kind of a regional issue, not an international problem, even though the Iranians don't view themselves as purely regional. I mean, why build ICBMs if that's your attitude? Nonetheless, and by the way, why have bases in our hemisphere? Bases in our hemisphere, if that's your view, that it's regional. So essentially, Obama surrendered. And then he had one propagandist after another around him, lying to the American people through the media. I have this in a number of my books because the evidence came out. One of them couldn't keep his mouth shut. He started bragging to the Washington Post. It's unbelievable. And he talks about how the media types were saps, lapdogs, how they would take whatever they put out and run with it, just as they are today. Same dumb bastards. So Biden comes in, he double downs on the Obama policies. And more than that, all his negotiations with the enemy, the Iranians, are in secret. Congress has no idea what's taking place. And he still wants to come up with a deal, a verbal deal, not even a written deal. And, again, violate the treaty clause of the Constitution of the United States. This is the problem. This is why I had huge problems with Bob Corker, Ben Sasse, all these Republicans who went along with Obama to turn this into a statute in violation of the treaty clause, and even worse. Congress, under this statute, would have to vote to stop Biden. In other words, the onus is put on Congress rather than the other way around. And, of course, a simple filibuster would kill that in the Senate. I don't mean to get into the weeds, but I'm showing you how this thing came to be. As I recall, the only Democrat seriously opposed to this in the Senate was Menendez. Schumer voted against it while he was organizing the Democrats for it. AIPAC, which supposedly represents Jewish and Israeli interests in Washington, D.C., sat on the sidelines. And J Street, filled with self-hating Jews, they supported it, of course, since Obama did. And the moron in the White House, the moron in that White House who now runs the ADL, special assistant to the president, he supported it too. Anyway, this is a grave threat to the United States. And I want to tell you something. When those sanctions were imposed on Iran, and then the President of the United States withdrew from the agreement, I was at his home in New Jersey, Mr. Producer. Did I ever tell anybody this? And there were a group of people there, and he was having a number of people from his administration and elsewhere. And he summons me over. He says, Mark, come over here. I said, okay, sir, come over. He said, I'm going to do something I think you approve of. I said, what's that? I'm signing the document to get out of this Iran deal. I said, you are? And he was taping it for the media because he was putting it out. And after he signed it, he handed me the pen, Mr. Producer. One of his famous Sharpies. And I took that Sharpie and I gave it to my stepson, David Milstein. Because nobody has worked harder. Nobody. To confront this Iranian deal than him, as far as I'm concerned. And the people he worked with, Ambassador Friedman and so forth. But I know he's worked day and night to try and protect this country from that enemy. I didn't deserve the pen. He did. Let's continue. Go.
Recently discovered the country has produced uranium at 83.7% pure.
All right, so 83.7%, in other words, 84%. You know what the nuclear level is of the fissionable material? 90%. I've been warning about this now for weeks and months. Here we are on the precipice. Once they have it, they'll never let it go, and we can't get it. I'm building to a point. Stay with me. Go ahead.
90% threshold needed for weapons-grade uranium.
So what is the Biden administration doing? There's only one country that has the will and the capacity to take this on. Because once they reach 90%, the Iranians will start arming, not just themselves, but they'll start arming our other enemies. Just as they have with their drones. This is very relevant to us, is it not? What if they decide to put missiles in Venezuela? What are we going to do? You know, that's so far away. That's 7,000. We're going to get another forever war. What the hell are we going to do? Yeah. Oh, my God. I'm so sick of this. It's a terrorist state. It's killed and maimed thousands of Americans. It's a terrorist state. It's an Islamonazi state. What if they put missiles in Venezuela? Think we're going to do anything about that? Just like the Chinese have a spy facility in Cuba? They're now in our backyards, folks. What are we going to do about this? It's very, very important.